Yeah, let's get started and it's time. So I'm going to share my screen. Today we are going to have our concluding session on the topic of surrender. And what we are going to do is we are going to pick up some normal day-to-day challenges, problems that people could relate to, may not be all inclusive, and see how and whether we can apply that concept of surrender in that particular situation or not. So let's get started by invoking the blessings of God and Guru. I'm going to share my screen and we will get underway. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Great. All right. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramardanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. All right. Radhe Radhe, good morning, good evening, everyone. A very warm welcome to today's edition of Daily Wisdom. Let's get started. Like I said, it's a concluding session on the topic of surrender, where we'll look at the practical implementation or convincing our intellect that this is what it is, the nididhyasana aspect of it today. And we will watch some of the videos from Swamiji to take on some of the concepts or solidify some of the concepts that we have been discussing. Let's get started. We'll probably pick up 5 or 6 hands, not more than that, because we have a lot of content to cover today. So let's get started for the one last time on this particular shloka. Tameva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashwatam.
Okay. Radhe Radhe Ashutosh ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Tamev sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharat tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashwatam.
Thank you. Wonderful.
Shyamji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Shyamji.
Radhe Radhe. Tamev sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashwatam. Radhe Radhe.
Wonderful, Shyamji. I see Kripa got some company today, vanishing company, but wow, good to see you both. Okay,
Yeah.
let's
Both of
pick
them
up your
together.
hands. Yeah, good to see
Yes.
you.
Surya Prakash ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Tameva charanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashwatam.
Very nice, Surya Prakashi. Thank you, Radhe Radhe. Okay, let's quickly pick up the remaining hands.
Yeah, Sumesh ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe Nitin ji, Radhe Radhe everyone. Tameva saranam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi saswatam.
Very nice, Sumesh ji. Radhe Radhe. 3 more hands we can pick and freeze it.
Yes, Radhe Radhe Uday Kumar ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. Radhe Radhe everyone. Tam eva sharanam gaccha sarvabhavena bharata tat prasadat param shantim sthanam prapsyasi shashwatam. Radhe
Wonderful.
Radhe.
Very nice, Uday ji. Radhe Radhe. Okay, last 2 hands.
Yes, Radhe Radhe Pragi ji, please go ahead.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Pragi ji.
त्वमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्.
Wonderful, very nice, Pragi ji. Radhe Radhe. Okay, last but not the least,
Yes, Riya ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Priya ji.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.
तमेव शरणं गच्छ सर्वभावेन भारत तत्प्रसादात् परां शान्तिं स्थानं प्राप्स्यसि शाश्वतम्. राधे
Very
राधे.
nice. Thank you very much. So let's get started then. We covered all the hands, right? Okay, so this shloka, we've been talking about the concept of surrender. The Lord Krishna is saying, surrender exclusively unto him with your whole being. O Bharat, by his grace, you will attain perfect peace and the eternal abode. So we have been talking about all the 6 principles of surrender. And today we will have a discussion around how can we map it to, some of the situations that we confront. All of us can relate to, one or another, or maybe more situation, and then see what is the practical application of these concepts in these kind of scenarios and have a good discussion around it. But before we do, let's get started with a beautiful lecture that Swamiji has. So these are the 6 principles we are talking about. Quick recap: desire only in accordance with the desire of God, not to desire against the desire of God, to have firm faith, God is protecting us, maintaining an attitude of gratitude towards God, to see everything we possess as belonging to God, and give up the pride of having surrendered. So these are the 6 principles that we've been talking about for the last week or so. And we also spoke about this concept that sometimes God doesn't do things the way we think he should, but he has a perfect plan for us. And if you look at the plan, it's not a straightforward plan. It requires, faith, trust, the acceptance, and of course the surrender aspect of it to move forward and take on, or accept the things the way they are happening to proceed further in life. Now, if you look at it, it is all Teda Meda plan, right? Not straightforward plan. And Lord Krishna, he's called Tribhangi Lal for some good reasons. He's crooked from 3 directions. From his head, he's tilted. From his waist, he's tilted. And then from his feet also, he's tilted. He could have stood straight. Why did he choose to stand like this? He's different. Now, he could have put a very precious crown on his head, but that wouldn't have differentiated him from others, so he put a peacock feather there. Now, he's called Trivangi Lal because his ways are Teda Meda. Okay, not straightforward. When he teaches you lessons, that path may not be straightforward because he knows best, because he's the best teacher. We always do that prayer, Krishnam Vande Jagat Guru. He's the perfect master. He's the original Jagat Guru. So he knows, and it is a hand-picked course designed for each one of us in our lives. And he knows what's the best way to teach this individual soul the next lesson that they need to learn. And that may not happen like a straight line as we would expect in our life. It will be like here, there, everywhere you would go until you reach a point where you have learned the lesson, pakka lesson. That is how Krishna teaches us. And that's something we need to have a good amount of faith, acceptance, trust, and surrender aspect of it. He is called Tribhangi Lal. The next time you say, you know what, if this is what I was supposed to learn, why did I go through this drill from here, there, and everywhere? That means it's Krishna's plan unfolding. He is Tribhangi Lal and he will do it in devious ways. You may not be able to understand it right from the word go, but when you will connect the dots back in your life, okay, this thing happened, and this thing happened, and because of it, here I am. Then you will understand. That is how Krishna teaches us. He has his own ways, and we just need to have faith and acceptance around it. So let's move on. Today's lesson basically the discussion is morely going to be around the practical aspect of surrender. We keep on hearing this concept, but what do we do when we are confronted with some real-time situations? And these situations is something we all have been confronted with or would probably confront with at some point in life. And that's when how do you map these concepts is very important to understand that. But before that, let's hear a beautiful lecture from Swamiji. I picked up 2 of those today just to drive home the points that we have been discussing. Let me know if you're able to hear the audio. It's important that you hear it, because if you don't, then it will not be nice. So I don't know what's going on. Something is not cooperating. Okay, are you able to see the screen?
We just see a white presentation slide right now.
Okay, so what I need to do is, in that case, give me a sec. I will just do that again. Something is not right. I'll stop share. Give me a sec. Something is not right. Sorry about that. I'm getting back to it now. Okay. All right. I'm going to share it again, and hopefully this time around everything is sorted out. Are you able to see my screen now? Good.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, I'm going to play it now.
Any mind.
Are you able to hear it?
Yes, yes.
Good. All right.
What to submit to God? What is mine? My body, my mind, my intellect, my family, my wealth, my house, my bank balance, possession, mine. Now this is the false mind. The real mind is God, Sri Krishna. But to attain Him, we need to submit the false mind. In all this false mind, there is one that is of critical importance. That is the mind. When we submit the mind, the consciousness is engaged in Him. The body, everything else is automatically submitted. But you cannot submit the mind until the intellect is submitted. Beyond the mind is the intellect. Indriyebhyah parahyartharthebhyascha param manah manasastu parabuddhir manasastu parabuddhir buddhir atma mahanpar. Subtler than the senses are the objects of the senses. Subtler than the objects of the senses is the mind. Subtler than the mind is the intellect. Subtler than that is the soul. So this intellect is beyond the mind. Until the intellect makes a decision, I need to surrender my mind, you will not be able to do it. And how to convince your intellect? Either you are a super genius and you have understood it all, or otherwise you surrender the intellect. The next question is, how to surrender the intellect? Surrender the intellect means whatever the scriptures say, take it as the truth. But I can't understand it. That's where surrender comes. Whether you understand it or don't, accept it. The scriptures say the Krishna Leela took place, but I need a proof. Surrender means just accept it. That is surrender. Mayyeva manadhatsva mayi buddhim niveshaya. What is your intellect saying? My intellect saying that there is happiness in jalebi and gulab jamun and samosa. But the scriptures are saying there is no happiness in the world. Now what are you going to believe? If you are surrendered, then you say, never mind what my intellect says. I will believe what the scriptures and my Guru says. But my intellect is complaining, I can't understand right now. Never mind. Surrender means accept. You see, as we do sadhana, we are right now in the bodily concept. I am the body. Once in a while we realize I am not the body. But this tadatmya, this feeling of oneness is even more with the mind. How many times do you feel I am not the mind? Sometimes when the mind plays mischief, then you realize, this is not me. This is the mind playing mischief. I will not associate with these thoughts. At that time you see, yes, I am not the mind. What about the intellect? Now that meshing with the intellect is even stronger. Have you ever thought, I am not the intellect? That was his question. I don't even know my intellect. Have you ever thought I am not the intellect? Sometimes when you have to struggle on the matter of faith, that is when you will realize my intellect is saying this, but I will not listen to the intellect. I will listen to the scriptures and the Guru. It's a conscious choice you will make, then you will understand I am not the intellect either. And then there is this lump called the ego. The roots of it go many miles deep. Can't even realize where it is beginning. That deep is the ego. Beyond the intellect will come the ego. When that is cut, then we will be situated in self-knowledge. But for now, Sri Krishna repeated, the mind and the intellect, surrender the mind to me, think of me. Surrender the intellect. Arjun, I am God. I am giving you this knowledge. Just believe it. Believe it, but how can I believe it? What is this? This is the pride of the intellect. I know something. We accept our intellect as the ultimate authority. Anything that contradicts my intellect must be wrong. That is the pride of our intellect. And that pride prevents us from knowing God. Kripalji Maharaj has written a couplet, Samaj samaj so sham ko samaj saka nahi koi. In an endeavoring to understand God, nobody understood Him by their own intellect. Samaj milahi jab sham ki samaj sake vas soy. That person who got God's intellect could understand Him. But how do you get God's intellect? Sham samaj se sham ko samaj sake sab koi. Anybody can know God if they get God's intellect. Sham samaj tab milahi jab. You will get the intellect of God. Jab samaj samarpit hoy. When you surrender your intellect. So make a decision. My intellect is impure. My intellect is tiny. My intellect is distorted by material attachment. That is why if I have to choose between what my intellect says and what the scriptures say, I will rather choose what the scriptures say. When we start training the intellect, then it slowly starts surrendering. That is why this need of faith, Shraddhasva, Tat Shraddhasva, have faith. faith in the Guru and have faith in the scriptures.
Okay, so the key message, if you look at at least the takeaway for me from this one was that we have spoken about the need to arm our intellect. And here Swamiji said, and that is nididhyasana, we were talking about that concept, where first you listen to a concept, then you contemplate hard enough on that concept, and then when your intellect is convinced that this is it, that's when it becomes proper pakka knowledge, right? But Swamiji says you can't even trust your intellect because your intellect also may complain at times. In SMX, to one of the participants' queries, Swamiji said, scold your intellect also. Because there might be times your intellect will also say, despite your best efforts and whatever knowledge you have gained, your intellect can also fool you. So even on top of your intellect is the ego aspect of it. But then whenever you have to choose between your intellect and the scriptural knowledge, you choose scriptural knowledge. Now, will your intellect get convinced if somebody tells you there was a monkey who picked up a mountain and started flying over the sea? Your intellect will say, no, come on, doesn't make sense. And somebody might come up and say, you know, Pandavas and Kauravas, they never existed. They are all in your mind only. It's just an analogy. Yeah, intellect will say, you know, this makes more sense because there are a lot of commentators of Bhagavad Gita. Of course, they are not God realized and they are reflected with those 4 defects that human authors have. They have written commentaries like this, where they trivialize the entire scripture. Ramayana and Mahabharata are Itihas Purana. That means they are historical events and they trivialize it by simply saying, you know what, nothing of that sort. It's just a matter of, it's a symbolic representation of things that are happening within you, which is fine to illustrate the concept. But then when you trivialize it and reduce it to only symbolic illustration or an analogy alone, you are doing a disservice. This is not the right way of looking at it. And that's where you have to be mindful of what your intellect is saying as well. Chide your intellect. As whenever it is on loggerheads with scriptures, take it on the face value. In due course of time, it will make sense. So intellect is a great power to arm it with the right knowledge. However, your intellect can also fool you. Sometimes you may have to overpower your intellect as well through scriptural knowledge by taking it only on the face value, because not all of it would make sense to begin with. Now let's move on. The other question that comes up is, how do I know how far I have progressed in my surrender? So it's a very short lecture. I have picked it up from Swamiji. So let's look at that before we get into some of the practical. So this is a question somebody may ask, how to measure your surrender to God? So a little bit of, yardstick Swamiji is giving. So let's take a look at this lecture and then we'll get into the practical aspect of it.
We have a free will. God has given us the ability to choose. How do we use that free will is the critical thing in all of creation. Like we have been discussing in the lectures, that the powerhouse has given you the energy. Now what you do with it is your free will. In the same way, God has given us the ability to see, hear, think. What we are doing with it is our free will. So your question is that when we are not yet surrendered, how can we assess where we are? First of all, understand what it means to surrender. And then measure yourself against that ideal. So you may have heard surrender means to align my desires in accordance with the desires of the Guru. Not to desire against the desire of the Guru. To have faith that God is protecting me. To feel gratitude. To think all I have belongs to Him. And to be free of the ego. So this is how the scriptures have defined the state of the surrender. Now you measure. And if you want to put it all in one, the first of these 6 points is in itself complete. Anukulyasya sankalpaha. to desire in accordance with the desire of the Guru. So if this is our mental state, what do I want? Whatever my Guru wants. That means we are surrendered. To the extent it is not there as yet. Guruji wants this, but I want this. Or to feel upset, to have mood off. All these things are indicative of lack of surrender. The third point of surrender is what? To have faith that God is protecting me. What is the sign? Sign is you are free from fear. If you are surrendered, you have no fear. If you have fear, you are not surrendered. The two don't go together. So check yourself. Do I have fear? Or have I become fearless? Vyas bharose kumari ke sovat pav pasar. These are all requires introspection, the ability to read ourselves very carefully. So it is all a work in progress, WIP. We are all works in progress. To see our deficiencies is good. It makes us humble and makes us realize that the goal is far. But becoming aware of that, we should not become dejected. We should then make this gap as intolerable to us. I know this is where I should be and this is where I am. The next thing is this gap is not tolerable to me. हे जीवन धन अब तो तुम्हारे प्रेम के बिना यह जीवन मृत्यु से भी अधिक भयानक है. This is now worse than death. Which means now we are inspired. I will do my best to be as I know how I should be. Somebody said, "Oh Lord, please make my actions in line with my knowledge." What a beautiful prayer. We have the knowledge. This is how I should be. The devotee says, "Lord, make my actions in line with that." So to want to be the best that we know we are supposed to be is the goal, the yearning of our sadhana, our spiritual practice. Thank you.
Wonderful. So I hope you like this powerful nugget that Swamiji gave. So the extent of fear, insecurity, anxiety that we feel is directly related to the amount of extent of surrender we have. I mean, it's a pretty straightforward yardstick, one of the many things, like Swamiji said. And second nugget that he said was that the mindfulness or awareness about our own deficiencies is a good thing, self-awareness. However, it should not be something that is, that should result in dejection or disappointment from within. We should channelize it for our growth as opposed to getting frustrated or disappointed with, "Oh my God, how bad I am. Oh my God, why did I think that? Oh my God, this happened. Oh my God." No, don't energize that thought and then think that, see, if you truly think you are humble, God is already, another name of God is Deen Bandhu. If you consider yourself Deenheen, God is willing to extend his arms to you. If you think yourself as Patit, how bad, how hopeless I am, then God is called Patit Pavan. Right? And if you truly become a good Bhakt, then Bhakt Vatsal anyway, he's there. Out of these three, becoming Bhakt is the most difficult one, perfect Bhakt. But considering yourself to be Deen or Patit is easy. If you can truly do that, then also God will intervene, his grace will intervene, because he's waiting to extend out his arms to Ratnakar, who became Ratnakar Akka, that means also known as Valmiki. We know his story, right? He used to kill people. He was of such demoniac tendencies, he would kill people for earning his living. And it's only when, Narad, he met Narad and he asked his wife, I kill people to make a living for you guys. So are you willing to share 50% of my papa's? She said, of course not, apna apna. It's yours only. And he said, okay, I'm just accruing so many sins. And she's not even going to take 50% of it. And that started bringing about the transformation that he had. And then he simply followed the word of his guru. That say, Mara Mara, he was so sinner, such a big sinner that even saying Ram, Ram, Ram was not possible for his tongue. See how big of a deal it is to say Ram, Ram. He could not, because so many sins he had done. Now, if that person could transform himself by saying Ram, Ram in the reverse direction, all of us can actually. But the point is, our ego comes in the way where we are not even able to admit or acknowledge that we are sinners or we are deenheen. So, powerful tips from Swamiji. Now, let's get into the real aspect of it. Here are the 6 principles that we have spoken about. Now, you can replace God with Guru. It's a very powerful concept. If the Guru is Shrotriya and Brahmanisht, there's absolutely no difference between God and Guru. Now, let's look at some of the scenarios here and see which all map. Let's take the first one, which is a pretty common scenario. Losing a near and dear one. Somebody, when we experience a loss in material world of somebody whom we care, love for, could be anybody. It's a difficult one, the most difficult one, I would say, right? Fear of death, and especially going through a tragedy where you lose somebody who's very dear to you, is the biggest reversal a human can take, one of the biggest reversals possibly. Now, which concepts does it map to, and which one do you find really difficult to map to? Out of these 6 principles, let's get the discussion going here and build on it. Yes, I see a couple of hands. Let's get it going.
Monica ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Monica ji.
Radhe Radhe, Nitin ji. Radhe Radhe, everyone. On the topic of surrender, I wanted to discuss one of my experiences that I experienced almost 3 weeks back, if not more, almost 3 weeks back. So,
sure. Love to hear
I'll just take 2 minutes here, Nitin ji. So we do diya in the morning and in the evening, right? And since I've been doing this since a very long time, so that faith of, whenever the diya is on in the house, nothing will go wrong. It just kind of built on. And then what happened was, I took my car from garage, and usually we enter and exit from our garage only, but we had one of our friends from New Jersey. And then for some reason, he took the main door. He went out from the main door, and then he forgot to lock it. And it happened during that time when one of the incidents happened of, somebody broke in the house and, one of the families. And so we were kind of discussing about that also. And then we have a lot of, I don't know if we call them rabbits or wild hair in the community, right? And then almost 3 days back, one of my neighbor, he said that they found a snake in their backyard. So what happened was, this friend of mine, he left the door open, and he did not realize, even I did not realize, we were out for 45 minutes, clear 45 minutes. The moment I came back, I saw the main door was open. And the first thing came to my mind was obviously those stories, right? That somebody might have broken in the house or something. But when I entered, the first thing I saw was the diya was still on. And I did not fear at all, not even an ounce, Nitinji. It was that strong. I mean, it just happened, within like seconds. So I entered the house, but for some reason I thought maybe some animal or something, right? Because my younger sister Sima, she's very scared of snakes. I mean, even if you do this in front of her, she'll get scared. So I just quietly came inside, and I was looking for maybe that, wild hair, or maybe some kind of animal maybe might have entered the house. But everything was exactly where it was supposed to be. 45 minutes, the house was open. It was like an invite to any robber or something, somebody that, you can just come quietly, take everything and go out, because all those Apple laptops and phones and everything was on the dining table. And I just came in, I looked at my car, and I'm like, I knew that nothing will happen. Nothing happened, not even an ant entered the house. I felt that aura. I felt that energy that, nothing is going to happen to this house. So I don't know, it was amazing. I wanted to share that.
No, it's great actually. It said that faith over a mustard seed can move a mountain. You had faith, And then God has his ways of reinforcing that in ways you are willing to believe, right? It is quite possible that you had a rabbit come in and then the fox followed it. It chased the rabbit away, and then the fox heard a wolf sound, it ran away, and then the snake came and the squirrel came and eat it, and by the you didn't realize it, and everything was cleaned up before the time you came back again.
Could be, because 45 minutes, the house
And
was like open. It was like completely open. The door was like absolutely open. I don't know how else I can explain the situation there. Because the moment I told my husband, the next day he changed the lock. Now we have that electronic lock where he'll get a notification if the main door is open. But when I entered, my reaction was completely different from my husband's reaction, because the moment he entered, he was like, सब कुछ अभी जगह पे तो है, सब लोग देखो, like that. And I entered and I was just looking for just maybe animals or something, but I knew that nothing has happened, nothing has gone wrong.
wonderful. That's a great story. I think the faith can make a lot of things happen. We have heard so many other stories as well, right? Where because of faith, a little kid can make a deity manifest and eat food as well. So it's the level of your faith that God is more than happy to reinforce from time to time. So thank you for sharing that story. Laddu is pretty amused listening to the story as well. So that's a good one. Thank you, Monica ji, for sharing that. Wonderful. So let's get back to our discussion topic then. Picking up the first one, losing a near and dear one. Which principles can we directly map it to, and which are the difficult ones for us? Because these 6 principles actually complete the surrender aspect of it, and we have to somehow figure out a way to map each one of these to the situations that we come across. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, go ahead, Sandhya.
I can probably start. So losing the near and dear one, right? I can see it mapping to 3 principles, but maybe first, the 5th one, to see everything we possess as belonging to God. Like, that's one. And the other, even this, that, desire, I mean, it might be God's desire that this had to happen. So both first and second also, I feel, are aligning to this.
Not to desire against God's desire. That maps as well, or it doesn't?
It does map.
It does
it was, I mean, if we are cribbing about it, and
what kind of emotion needs to be countered if we were to map it to that?
if we are not having acceptance about that loss, then in some sense we are desiring against the desire of God.
Good point.
That's how I see it. Yeah.
Gratitude in that case, of course, it's a little difficult to handle, but we can talk about that also a little bit. Let's hear from Sumita ji as well.
Yeah. Also, there was another question maybe which I received in the chat.
Sure.
Which is a little different from this discussion, but it is about how do we know what we are supposed to be, like in reference to what Swamiji had said in the previous lecture that we heard.
How do we know what are we supposed to be?
Yes, can you please share some insights on that? So it's a question from Ratnaji.
Ratnaji, if you can talk about it, in what context you're saying. I mean, what are we supposed to be could mean a lot of things for a lot of people, but our aspirational state is to be 100% Sharanagat, where we have reached a state where we have complete acceptance around what's happening to us, around us, and no complaints whatsoever. And at the same time, if you ask me from another standpoint, it will be like, okay, we have to achieve our infinite potential, right? And to increase our seva and sadhana until we reach that point. So a lot of things it could mean, but if you can clarify the context, I think we can have a more directed, pointed discussion around it.
Ratnaji has raised hand. Should I take her up first?
Yeah, sure, Ratnaji. And we go to Sumedha ji and Pallavi ji.
Yes, Ratnaji, please go ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. It is in the direction of getting to our infinite potential. Like whatever we are supposed to be the best of it.
Yes, that's right.
How do you know we're supposed to be?
How do we get to that state you're saying?
She's asking, how do we know what we are supposed to be? Like what we are supposed to be best in?
See, I'm still trying to figure out what will I do when I grow up. Okay, so it's an ongoing discovery process, but then we've spoken about this concept, right? As you start progressing in spirituality, you start tapping into not only your self-awareness, but into your intuition as well. And typically, when you start aligning to something that you should be doing more of, you will get an aha that yes, now something good is happening. So we start doing more of it. And then anyway, Swamiji says, right, what we are doing is only a preparatory stage. When God starts mixing his grace with it, and that's when the magic starts to unfold. So whatever you are doing, when you start doing it for the pleasure of God, right, especially that becomes a seva or a worship at that point. And then when God's grace starts mixing into it, you will start realizing you had such big potential. You are capable of doing things which you never thought you could possibly do. And it just keeps on increasing. And from our standpoint, what we can do is we just keep on increasing our seva bhav for God. And, that selflessness that Swamiji talks about, and the spirit of surrender. That's all we control through our free will. Everything else will be provided for by God only through his grace. So on a day-to-day basis, first of all, we need to bring in acceptance and practice these principles of surrender. When we practice these principles, it will draw grace. And when the grace will mix with our efforts, the magic will start to unfold. That will take you closer to your true potential. So if you ask, what do I need to do? We need to first increase the spirit of our surrender in our day-to-day life. That is the topic that we are discussing. Where we err is when we start violating these principles, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously. That's where we block the grace, and that is where we get it wrong. And that is why I picked up a few questions which we all can relate to and see how we can practice surrender in these kind of situations. Because if we can practice, we can bring this knowledge to counter or neutralize these situations, then we have really cut a corner, right? Swamiji said the best prayer one can say to God is, bring my actions in line with my knowledge. So this is one of those activities that we are doing. Can we bring our actions in line with our knowledge of surrender that we are doing right now? Let's take the next few hands.
Yes, Sumedha ji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. So I think the first scenario, being outside the picture of that situation, hypothetically thinking, my first would be that everything belongs to God in that situation. I think it will come in phases of what to accept in terms of the steps from the surrender. It's very hard in this situation. So maybe to start with, everything belongs to God. And then, in Hindi, they say, Bhagwan ki marzi ke aage kiska jor chalta hai. And it's a very, very common notion when it comes to first scenario. So then the first principle and second principle, and with time, then the third principle also would kick in to have firm faith that the God is protecting us in a situation like this where you feel like there's no security, that security bond is broken when a near and dear one gone. So I'm speaking as I'm outside the picture, but once you are in the picture, if something has really gone in that moment, it's so hard to get your head around the principle of surrender.
Yeah.
You could just think is like, it is what it is. And then slowly this principle would kick in. But in that situation, you just cannot do anything. It's like, just accept it. There's nothing else to there other than accepting it. It is what it is.
True. Very true. And this principle you cannot bring in unless you have been exposed to this and deliberately you're trying to bring it in your mind, right? Otherwise, it's very difficult to even come to terms with the acceptance aspect of it if we have not been exposed to this knowledge. You will simply have a complaining mindset at that point. Like it is said, right? You can't dig a well when your house is on fire. And this is a situation all of us have either encountered or will encounter. Nobody in this material world is immune from it. So we need to have a right perspective to face the obstacles in this life, which each one of us would have to experience at some point in life. This is very important to know that, right? Somebody asked, Buddha, can you rectify or resurrect the dead son? And he said, okay, I will do that. First, get me a mustard seed from a house where no death has taken place. So this is the most difficult one. So it's important we We have it at the back of our mind. That is where the knowledge comes in. And second thing is from a grieving standpoint as well. The first thing, that comes in, why do we grieve? Get to the fundamental of it. We grieve because we think the happiness that we thought we would get from that particular relationship has been obstructed. The person with whom we are trying to grieve for has already departed, probably moved on to better things. Probably God saved them from much more misery that they were likely to encounter in this life. All that has already happened. But it is our self-interest which gets impeded, obstructed, that causes us to grieve more and more and more. There was a guy who was not getting a closure because he was madly in love with his wife and he lost her. And then Swamiji explains that very beautiful story. He said, then he was not able to, take it to a closure in his head. And then Swamiji told him, what? If you had departed before your wife, would she have been able to take that or not? He said, definitely not. He said, maybe God spared her that trouble. So things are happening for a reason. We just have to have faith and trust around that. So if you look at it, yes, let's hear from Pallaviji on this, and then we'll carry this discussion forward. Maybe we'll pick up 2 questions today because each one of this is pretty profound and deep. And we'll continue on this discussion. Yes, Pallaviji, you wanted to add something?
Yes, Radhe Radhe Pallaviji.
Yeah, Radhe Radhe Nitinji, Radhe Radhe everyone. A very profound discussions going on, Nitinji. So for the first topic, losing a near and dear one, I believe this is a very tough one that everyone faces in the lifetime. So according to me, what I have understood, the first principle could be to see everything we possess as belonging to God. We have to accept that everyone, including all family, relatives, mother, father, everything is given to us by God. So that is something to see that everything is what we possess as belonging to God. And then eventually we have to get to the second principle, which is not to desire against the desire of God. It is, in Hindi we say, honi hokar hi rehti hai. Like honi is going to happen. Everything, whatever is happening, happens as the will of God. So we eventually we have to accept it. Especially in this case, there's no other way around to console us.
True. And our complaining and to God is not going to help anyway. Right? It's not going to change things. On the other hand, we are giving up or forfeiting an opportunity to practice surrender that could have invited more of God's grace and build resilience in our mind. Look at Abhimanyu. His marriage was conducted by Vedvyas. His father was Arjun. His uncle was Krishna. None of them saved him because he was supposed to depart at the age of 16. So when that was the fate even Abhimanyu had to meet. Even Krishna's elder brothers, 7 or 8 of them, Devaki, he could not. So that is how the world is designed. And then if you look at the actual nature of the world, soul is eternal. We are simply getting recycled. Nobody's going anywhere. It's God's mercy at times to rid us of a body, gross body, which is inhabitable or something much more worse. So that is also God's mercy in that sense. It's not something is whimsical is happening. Everything, Jan, Mrityu, Labh, Hani, Yash, Apyash, these 6 things are firmly in God's control. Nobody can say that, it just happened just like that. Factors would align and it would just happen. So we just have to have acceptance is the key message here from a scriptural standpoint. So yes, first is everything as possessing to God. We think it's ours, mine. That conception is broken at that point. Anything can be snatched away, just like that. It could be material, it could be living. And then not to desire against the desire of God, because Honi is happening as per the macro plan of God. Now let's not violate the first 2 principles. Firm faith, God is protecting us. It's a difficult one in this one, but then sure, from a soul standpoint, he has a better plan for everyone. He has a perfect plan for everyone. So from that sense, in this life, that relationship might have gotten obstructed, but from a soul standpoint, he may have a perfect plan for it. not make. He does have a perfect plan for that soul. So those principles we can bring into, yes, I see Kripa wanted to add something as well. Yes, go ahead, Kripa, and Sweena, you wanted to add something?
Yeah, and after that, I think there is some chat as well that I'll read. So Kripa and Lakhapa, right? Radhe
Yes.
Radhe. Go ahead.
Yes, Radhe Radhe.
Oh, you're muted again?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I was trying to unmute and I muted. Okay, so I was thinking that with all the principles that everybody added, I was thinking we could also relate this to principle number 4, to maintain an attitude of gratitude toward God, because like when God takes away a very near or dear one from us, he's kind of detaching us from our material relationship. And then like detaching us from the material relationship can help us progress towards attachment with the God himself. So we can still, I guess like this can come later on, but we can also relate with the 4th principle.
It's a very profound point, Kripa, that you brought up. I'm glad you could bring it out. It's a difficult one, but if you truly understand it, it's just like a child is busy playing with a doll and forgetting about food and everything else. And what the mother does is simply snatches away that toy. So when we start getting too hung up in the world and we think that is all is there to be, then God, it's part of his mercy that he takes away that attachment. That is also part of his perfect design. And this is a great point, in fact, you said, Kripa, because it's not easy to understand. But yes, it's God's mercy actually, where he starts working on your uncalled for attachment that we start building, because that is weakening, that's making us vulnerable, that is actually eroding our spiritual merit gradually. All these attachments that we start building, because these are all temporary, they are not truly our somebody. And that attachment, because of that mindset, we'll start repeating for the other set of people in next life. That attachment is not to that person, that face might be there, but it's a journey of soul. Next time that role would be taken up by somebody else, the same attachment would come. So God is giving you a reason to first understand this is not a true thing, and secondly giving you a reason to start building detachment around the material world and telling the impermanence. Great point. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you for that.
Yeah, very true.
Very true.
This reminds of Kunti asking for those wishes of miseries, right? And even Sant Tukaram, like they were grateful to God for providing them reasons for detaching with the material.
They are the difficult ones to take, but I think the benefit that we all can get because we are reading Bhagavad Gita and really going deep into the scriptures is to really build these knowledge assets and start looking at it. Because this is something we need to be prepared at the back of our mind, because all of us would have to deal with it in some form or manner. So that is where these principles are important. And secondly, dealing with uncertainty. Maybe we can get a little deeper into that today, or the first one, whichever one you want to take. That is another one, right? Where something is not there and you start becoming anxious about it, like what's going to happen. Then all the principles basically can be applied there. Not the last one is the last one, basically it will come once we have perfected the first 5 but all principles are actually applicable to all the situations if you think deeply enough. Okay, maybe that could be an homework you can take. We can create a thread on that on the portal, but think about it. These are very, very important, because from Bhagavad Gita standpoint, the Karam Yoga is practical aspect of it when you work, but these are the situations where we miss out on surrendering ourselves, our will to God. These situations, adversity can bring the best out of you, or adversity can bring the worst out of you. When the squeeze happens in our life, whatever is inside us comes out. It's like when you squeeze a lemon juice will come out. You squeeze a grape juice will come out. Similarly, when life applies a squeeze on us, if we have not built spiritual assets, then we will just become negative in life, very negative in life. And we will say, okay, I'm a victim, and why did God this to me? And there is no God, and this world is all that stuff. But if you, on the contrary, if you have started building spiritual assets, you will look at it as God's grace. You would look at it as an opportunity to align to his will. You would look at it as an opportunity not to go against his will by complaining. And you would look at this as an opportunity to basically deepen your understanding that every end of the day, everything belongs to God. I am saying my kid, I am saying my relative, I am saying my spouse, but he's Jagatpati. He's the Pati of your Pati also. He's a possessor of everybody. And ultimately, we are all his children, right? And he's, as a father, is taking care of us perfectly. He has a plan for all of us. That faith trust has to be built. That will free up our mind. It's like I have everything to gain in this life. Doesn't matter if I don't have a perfect life like the world would like to see. I need to be studying at this age. I need to have a job at this age. I need to be married at this age. I need to have kids at this. All these are template life that world has created. Nothing. Everybody is in their perfect time zone. What needs to happen? And God has a perfect plan. So the more acceptance we bring, the more grace we invoke, and better the magic starts unfolding in our life. We start leading a free life with freedom and without fear at that point. And that is a great spot to be in. See, if somebody has broken all the shackles in your mind, how good it is to be in that position. It's our mind that troubles us, right? Okay. Anybody else? I think Sumedha, you wanted to add. Sandhya, you wanted to add as well?
First of all, very, very beautifully said. I just love the way you explained right now. And Ankurji said that first 5 for this, like all first 5 principles apply in this situation. Lakshmi ji said that 2, 5, and 6 are difficult. Then Aswina has asked a
2,
question.
5, and 6 are. Why is it difficult to see everything possessing? Let's hear from Lakshmi ji. What makes us so difficult to see that everything we possess is belonging to God?
Lakshmi ji, do you
Let's
want to
challenge.
raise
See,
hand?
the reason I put these questions is, if you're not able to map it to anyone, that means that is an area we need to work on ourselves. That means that spot is something we need to make it even more pakka in our head. Yes, Lakshmi ji, you wanted to add something?
Yes, Lakshmi.
0240.
Yeah, your voice is a little, I don't know.
Lakshmi ji, can you hear us?
Hello?
Yeah, Radhe Radhe.
Yeah, are you able to hear me?
Yes.
Hello?
You're in a market, but we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm in hospital, so that's why I just texted.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, why it is difficult. However, we make our mind to accept that. At some or the other point, again we deviate. So I find it is difficult to accept those 3. So it takes me.
It's good you have identified your soft spots. That means those are the areas you need more acupuncture on. Okay. Once we identify our soft spots, we know something needs to be done about those, because if you don't do that, then we are not aligning to those principles, and that means we are obstructing God's grace. It's very simple. So somehow we need to prep ourselves up with each one of these principles and not getting into a complaint mindset, or deepening our attachment to the world, that this belongs to me, this belongs to be my father, my mother, my spouse, my this, my that. We just need to bring in acceptance around that. Dealing the difficult person and spouse, relative, friend it's an interesting one, which we all do. How do we bring in an acceptance and say it is desire of God and stuff? We can have a good discussion, maybe a discussion of its own. We can continue this discussion tomorrow if you think it will make sense. Let me know. But please fill out the feedback tracker as well. Provide your feedback. I'll get a sense of if you want to continue this discussion. But these are very important. See, all the knowledge is good, but if our actions don't align to that, we are actually, it's a mere information at that point. And there's a good opportunity to prep ourselves up for things in life that we are going to likely to face, and we are facing. These are very common situations, right? At your job, or uncertainty is there, anxiety, insecurities, we get cheated by people, unfavorable situations happen. That is where, if we can apply the principles of surrender, nothing like it. But if you're not able to, then it became a mere knowledge at that point. These 6 principles, you'll keep on coming across this through scriptures in Bhagavad Gita, but it's important we map it to our real life situations and start implementing those and seeking God's help in being able to implement those as well. God is willing to help us. He will give us strength. But you cannot build this strength all of a sudden when situation has presented itself. It's proactively we can take control of that. Yes.
There are two questions in the chat. One is from Ashutosh ji. He's asking, did God save Parikshit ji?
Yeah, he did. Parikshit, yeah. In mother's womb only he was resurrected. Because Ashwathama's Brahmastra had killed him in the womb, and then God resurrected him, Parikshit. Yeah.
And second question is from Asvina. She's asking, can you please help me understand, give up the pride of being surrendered?
It's like Asvina has practiced all the 5 principles, and now she goes on and says, you know what? I am surrendered. The moment she said that, that means she got the pride of having surrendered. If you are surrendered, you will not say I'm surrendered. It's not something that you feel pride about. So that pride is subtle, but we have to finally give up that pride also, that you know what, I'm a surrendered soul. When somebody says that, that means they have developed that pride. Hope that answers that question.
Yes, I guess. So now Sumedha, back to Sumedha ji. Radhe Radhe.
Yeah. I just wanted to add a couple of points, and I want to share a real life example also. So when it comes to losing a dear one, it's actually the void, reading the scripture, Bhagavad Gita, and understanding, I think we have got a great grasp on the soul and the body, and the death is inevitable. It's the void which is so challenging. And the second piece about the surrender, Nitinji, is also about your own feeling, the remaining person, how they feel emotionally. And that is also, I somehow feel like it's part of the surrender process. That the feelings are coming and going. There will be days good and not good, worse, and that too is also a part of surrender process. Don't to think
Right. So when the feeling is good, you may be able to practice it, but when you start missing somebody, then that complaining thing might come. That's essentially what you're saying, right?
Yeah, like the feeling
Yeah,
you
that's
have to
because we
process.
and that is again the intellect part of it, where we have not contemplated deeply on this topic. If the knowledge is solid in our head, then we would have preempted that already. That we don't let our feelings drive us at that point. We let the right knowledge overpower those feelings as well. But that happens with a lot of practice, of course, because if we go purely by our feelings, then we'll be all over the place. Feelings can take us, those are transient and they are fleeting.
Yes, sorry. With the second topic, dealing with uncertainty in life, it's a real life example. I'm actually dealing with it currently. So we have a guest staying at our house for over 2 months now. Thankfully, she's not. I checked the participants just to make sure. So she's been staying with us. She was in a desperate situation, and we said, "Why don't you come and stay with
I
us?"
think your guest is one of the participants here. I can see that.
No, she's not. I have already checked.
Okay.
And this, my husband and I, we talk about, okay, this is a seva. This is a seva because, everyone has a small fragment of God. So, and I remind that every now and then.
Atithi Devo Bhav, by the way.
But lately, it's mentally exhausting, to be quite honest with you, on things like, I have to really make sure that she's well taken care of. And I feel like it's my duty, it's my responsibility, and it's taking a mental toll on me. And so some days, there are days, honestly, when the feeling comes like, oh my God, I'm so tired. I think she should move out. I think she should just move out. And then I remind myself, you know what, it's the God's will that she's here. I just have to serve her in a way that I'm serving God. So it's a constant battle for me, and I remind myself of this surrender principle. I have to go according to God's desire. If God wants her to move out, she will move out herself. It's not that we're going to tell her or something like that, but I have to constantly remind myself to be on that best spirit that it is what it is.
Sure. Yeah, that is
it's difficult. It's difficult because it does, comes back, mind is so unpredictable, and it goes back to this thing, oh my God, I'm mentally exhausted. And then I bring it, I constantly pulling, no, it's God's will. It will happen in its due course, in its organic way. Just take it as a seva.
No, that's a good thing. I mean, we increase our tolerance and acceptance around it. Maybe that might be the bit of a lesson there as well. Or you can insert a DVD with the Atithi Kab Jaoge movie, Hindi movie. And she makes
There's another suggestion from Kumarji. Ask her to, you can start saying bad PJs to your guest and soon she will run away.
Yeah, that consultancy Kumarji can provide you. But yeah, I think maybe it's God's will to test your tolerance and acceptance around it. Or maybe you became her guest in the last life, or she's just, settling the scores with you. That is also a possibility.
And you say that because that's exactly what I told her one day we were talking about it. It's exactly what I told her, that maybe we are, paying some debt that we had incurred in the past lives.
Yeah, possibly. Or you are future proofing your stay in her house in next life. So everything will eventually settle down, okay? You are in a good spot, I would say, but increase your tolerance for as long as you have to deal with it. I think that's a bit, because if you're dealing with negativity, then you are again letting go of an opportunity to serve somebody, right? So
yeah, and it actually deviates me from my spiritual path, and that's exactly when I, remember those lines. A good day of soul and a bad day
for soul is a
white.
good day. A bad day for ego is a good day for soul. Yes, great, Sumita ji. Thank you for sharing. Manish ji, the last one, and then we get to our devotional segment or a little more discussion on this topic. Yes, Manish ji, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe, Manish ji, please go
Kumar ji,
ahead.
you have time to prep up for a couple of minutes as well.
Radhe Radhe, everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
So losing a near and dear one, I see all five, but I guess the sixth one I don't understand, because I see, like in the Gita, Krishna, when Arjuna is pretending to have this, and he's saying that I don't want to kill my relatives, everybody, my family, and then Krishna says that, you don't know that they could have, there could be somebody in that could have killed you in the past, or you could be the one that kills them in the future. Or, when he talks about Abhimanyu, he said he could be your father in the next life, or things like that. So nothing really, the dear and near ones are just temporary. They don't belong to us. They are God's anyway. So there's nothing that's ours to begin with. So,
right.
But I can see 1 through 5 for that. But can you explain if 6 is possible and how? Thank you.
No, 6 is if you have already practicing the first 5, then you cannot have this sense that, I am so surrendered. That if you have that sense that I am Sharanagat and I am surrendered, that means it's your pride talking. It's only through God's grace that He enables you to surrender. So you cannot even have a pride of being surrendered. That's essentially
right.
what
I'm talking about in this scenario of losing a near and dear one.
Yeah, losing a near and dear one. I don't know if 6th is applicable in that case. Maybe if somebody's completely detached to this process and then say, you know what, I'm surrendered. That's why I'm fine. Then that means his pride is talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that also needs to be surrendered at that point.
Right.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Himani is going to say something.
Kumarji, Himani. So maybe Kumarji, Radhe Radhe, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe.
Your video, then you get preference. So, but regardless, please go ahead.
Okay, Radhe Radhe, everyone.
Radhe Radhe.
So to this person who has this guest who will not move out, of course, I don't know how Nitinji, I was also thinking about the same movie. But anyways, what I would do is like probably have this person help around in the house. Does not mean that they'll leave, but at least, they'll be helpful in the house so you won't feel that much of a pain. This reminds me though of a long time back, a lady who was, she was single all her life. A far relation of us she suddenly came to our house because there was a Skylab which was going to fall down. So this is a long time back. So she came and said, I'm scared. I cannot go out. I have to stay. And she was very safe. She felt very safe in our house. But only thing is she would not do any work. She would order all the people, elder people around, and the youngsters never liked it, including me. But my grandmother and my parents and my uncles and aunts, they would not say anything to her. So I don't know what it was. They had a lot of compassion for this lady who was probably, she didn't have much of anything in her life. So she spent quite a bit, even after the Skylab fell in the Indian Ocean somewhere near Australia or somewhere pretty far down south. Then she stayed for some time. She was not well, she got well, and then she left. So, you don't know what happens, right? Sometimes things happen that way, and we have to show a lot of compassion to such people.
Great point. Yes, very true. Thank you, Kumarji, for showing compassion and providing a tip on the movie as well, the same movie that we both thought about. So thank you very much for that. Yes, Himani and then Sairamji. Let's hear from them. And we have to make some announcements as well, Sandhya. I think I forgot that completely.
Yeah, so there are 3 announcements. One is please fill the feedback tracker, especially now that Nitinji has said that if you want to continue discussing this topic, please mention it in the feedback tracker so that he's aware. And next, Swamiji's India's tour is going on. So I have posted about this in the chat. You can check out the link to know when he's coming to your city and do not miss out on this opportunity. And third announcement is about Gita Summit. So Bhagavad Gita Summit, Gita Jayanti celebrations are coming up. So they are from December 1st to December 4th. On December 3rd, there will be chanting of all the 700 shlokas of Gita.
Wow.
Yeah, first time in my life I'll be participating in something like that. Really excited. So yeah, so do not, and that will be, entire event will be broadcasted live as well. So we all can attend it either in person or virtually. So yeah, looking forward to that. And these are the only announcements. So now we can move on to Himani.
And fundraiser, we'll talk more about it tomorrow. We have a beautiful poem coming your way as well for that tomorrow. So let's move to Himani now.
Awesome. Yes, Radhe Radhe Himani, please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe. I raised hand for the devotional segment to sing.
Okay, so Himani is going to sing today. Wonderful. I can't wait for that.
Very nice.
For you to.
It'll be your debut bhajan, I guess, here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome.
Let's hear from Sairamji. Are you here for the devotional segment as well?
Radhe Radhe Sairamji.
Radhe Radhe. Maybe another time for devotional segment.
Okay.
Maybe underprepared this time.
No worries.
I had a question on the measuring the surrender. How do we measure surrender without breaching point 6? I mean, if we begin to measure our surrender, then inevitably we'll.
True. Breaching. Yeah, we can't measure it actually. We can get some indications. Only God and Guru would know exactly where are we with respect to our journey or trajectory in surrender. It's very difficult for us to know that, how far we have come in that. But we can get some indications. One of the indications is how less fear you have, right? How much you are quickly able to accept it rather than complaining it in your head. So those are some of the indicators.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to read this and, mug it up and be like a parrot and say it. But then when the situation happens, even like after writing a summary, it's easy to just get annoyed or irritated, or once you're in the situation, it seems like the knowledge evaporates. I don't know how we can get it back, and you have to continuously sort of scold the intellect again and again.
True, very true. It will happen, Sairamji. Because see, when we start putting in efforts, God starts supporting us as well, because he understands the intensity with which we are trying to do, and he also understands the intention, sincerity around it, and he understands that it's not something we can do on our own. So we start getting that help. We have to continue doing the bits which are in our place and keep scolding our intellect and keep trying at the best that we can. That's the best thing we can do. And rebound quickly, as opposed to, playing the victim card or complaining or feeling sad about something for a long period of time.
Yeah. Thank you, Nitinji.
Thank you, Sai Ramji. So everybody's for the devotional segment now, all the hands.
Yeah, I'm assuming that all are
Seema, are you going to sing as well?
Yes, so many debut bhajans today.
I can't wait. I mean, it's worth the wait. Today we are starting a little late, but it is worth the wait. So let's start with Himani then.
Okay, Radhe Radhe. Do we want to stop sharing
You're
or?
all ears. Imani sings beautifully, by the way. The other day, I had the privilege to hear her sitting right next to her during the Prem Yoga training that is happening. So please go ahead, Himani. You're all ears.
Thank you. श्यामान बसो वृंदावन में मेरी उम्र बीत गई गोकुल में मैं तो बन के दुल्हन आज सजी बस तुम ही हो मेरे तन मन में श्यामान बसो वृंदावन में मैं पल पल तुझको सोच रही हाँ दर दर तुझको खोज रही मैं पल पल तुझको सोच रही हाँ दर दर तुझको सोच रही तेरी छवि जो निहारूं अंतस में तेरा वास दिखे मुझे कण कण में प्रभु आन बसो वृंदावन में मेरी उम्र बीत गई गोकुल में मैं तो बन के दुल्हन आज सजी बस तुम ही हो मेरे तन मन में श्यामान बसो वृंदावन में श्यामा रास रचाने आओ ना प्रभु नट खट लीला दिखाओ ना श्यामा रास रचाने आओ ना प्रभु नट खट लीला दिखाओ ना स्वस्ति नाम जपे श्यामा श्यामा स्वस्ति नाम जपे श्यामा श्यामा मिली सबको पन्हा तेरे चरणन में श्यामान बसो वृंदावन में.
Wonderful, Himani. You've got a very, very sweet voice, I must say that.
Thank you.
And I would like to hear from you. How's been this transition from opera to bhajans? What inspired you to start singing bhajans? I mean, you've got a beautiful voice and you sing well, I must say that. So how's been this transition? She's an opera trained singer, by the way. So now she started singing bhajans, which is pretty awesome. Would like to talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, sure. So this Sunday I sang one of the kirtans in the temple.
Oh,
this
wow.
Yeah. So yeah, Bhajman Adha Radha Radha from Brajras Madhuri, Kripalaji's song from Brajras Madhuri. Yeah, so my talent was discovered in the Nadi Yoga section of the yoga teachers training.
Okay. Yeah.
So I was like very focused on opera, so the thought never came to my mind to sing bhajan. Although I was a bathroom singer for bhajans and other genres, but since I was part of the yoga teachers training, so I naturally performed. I mean, because we all had to do something, so I just sang, and that's how everyone came to know that I sing.
Yeah, I had the first-hand experience of it. So was that the first time you sang there?
Yeah.
That was nice. That was nice. I think great. Now you have transitioned to bhajans. It will only go from one direction from here on. So keep singing. You've got a beautiful voice and your sur tal are like spot on. So we'd love to hear more from you. Very nicely sung. Thank you so much for that.
Thank you.
So
Lovely.
many accolades coming her way. Beautiful singing, Himaniji. Wonderful. I mean, I heard you singing bhajan for the first time and it was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Himani. Sandhya ji, welcome back. Long time. Good to see you back. And then we have two more. So we have a buffet of melodious singing and bhajans up there. So please go ahead, Sandhya ji. Next in line are you.
Yeah. Radhe Radhe, Nitinji and Sandhya ji and everyone. Nitinji, actually, I raised the hand because the point that which you discuss, it's a wonderful session today. I'm so happy to know the things, I'm so, I can't express my feeling, because when you ask, like, out of all those 5, which is matching, somehow I feel I can't express in my words, but I feel all 5 are somehow matching with all the 6 other points. First, I raised my hand to express that feeling, but
sure.
And eventually you said like this singing thing, I mean bhajan session also, so I thought, okay, I can also sing, but if time permits, I will sing today, or if not, also tomorrow is also fine for me, Nitinji.
Okay. Sure, no worries. So we will continue with this discussion a little bit tomorrow as well. So let's have
nothing to discuss, but I just wanted to say that somehow I feel like all 5 are matching with 6.
Great. I'm glad you're able to map it. And the
Yeah.
ones that we find difficult to map are the ones we need to work on.
Yeah, but it's hard to express in words. That's the thing.
Correct. Thank you for sharing that, Sandhya ji. Thank you so much. All right. Seema, all yours now.
Okay. Radhe Radhe, Seema. Please go ahead.
Radhe Radhe,
No, you're going to make your
Radhe
debut.
Nitin bhaiya. Huh?
We have 2 debut singers today, so go ahead. I'm
I
excited
know,
to hear
and
you.
I'm excited as well, Nitin bhaiya, but Himani ji conscious me and a lot. I'm super conscious now because of her, because I loved the way she sang the song. Seriously.
Your Mona Didi is also watching you, okay? But no pressure.
And Mona Di has a request. If Nitin ji aap screen share stop karenge, then we can see even more.
Oh,
okay.
You should have. Let's spotlight her. Let's make it easy for her.
Okay. And Nitin bhaiya, let me tell everyone that I'm a really, really bad singer. I just wanted to sing this song, so I'm singing it now. So okay.
You're starting with this disclaimer.
Yeah, okay.
The good news is that most of her are bad singers only. But
I don't think so, Nitin
emotion and
bhaiya.
excitement will make up for it. So please go ahead.
Okay. So कौशल्या दशरथ के नंदन राम ललाट पे शोभित चंदन रघुपति की जय बोले लक्ष्मण राम सिया का हो अभिनंदन अंजनी पुत्र पड़े हैं चरण में राम सिया जब ते तन मन में मंगल भवन अमंगल हारी द्रवहु सुदशरथ अजर बिहारी राम सिया राम जय जय राम राम सिया राम जय जय राम मेरे तन मन धड़कन में सिया राम राम है मन मंदिर के दर्पण में सिया राम राम है तू ही सिया का राम राधा का तू ही श्याम जन्मों जन्म का ये साथ है मीरा का तू भजन भजते हरि पवन तुलसी ने भी लिखी ये बात है मंगल भवन अमंगल हारी द्रवहु सुदशरथ अजर बिहारी राम सिया राम जय जय राम राम सिया राम जय जय राम.
Wonderful, Seema. So we discovered another talent of you today. I mean, she's an expert in making Insta reels And then whoever told you can't sing well, whether it was you yourself, was an completely lied. Okay, so you are
My teacher, my music teacher told me that I cannot
music
sing.
teacher. They need to be trained. They need to be trained on Saregama again. You sing well, and you've got a lot of bhavs. Okay, so keep it up, and we'd love to hear more from you.
Thank you, Nitin Bhaiya. Thank you so much.
Seema, I got beautiful bhajan vibes from you. Seriously, beautiful, wonderful.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Thank you.
So,
Radhe
yeah,
Radhe. Jai
Radhe
Shri Ram.
Radhe.
Thank you so much.
You
Thank
made a great debut like Himani did, and we would love to hear more from you. Okay.
I would love it, Nitin Bhaiya. Thank you so much. I'm super excited now. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Radhe Radhe. Thank you.
You did well. 2 hands.
Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe. Okay, now we've got Sunita ji. Sunita ji, you've got your mic ready?
Yes. Icing on the cake, Sunita ji.
Please go ahead, Sunita ji.
Radhe
Yes,
Radhe.
the mic is with me and I shall make it ready. Before that, Himani ji, it was awesome. Your voice, it's a trained voice, very beautiful bhajan. And Seema, I really loved your voice texture. And it's like really how it was beautiful. And your voice, I really love the voice. The way you sang. So let me sing. Okay. Mic को on कर लेती हूँ.
माइक ऑन कर लीजिए.
जी.
धन्यवाद.
Now my mic is on. Or this bhajan is very common in India. In any devotional ceremony, if you attend, you will get to hear this bhajan. Okay. Krishna Hare Krishna Krishna Hare Krishna देवकी नंदन तुमको बंधन रख दे सबकी लाज सबके स्वामी अंतर्यामी पूरन की जय काज देवकी नंदन तुमको बंधन रख दे सबकी लाज सबके स्वामी अंतर्यामी पूरन की जय काज मन मंदिर में सज बिहारी मनमोहन तेरी छवि अति प्यारी मन मंदिर में सज बिहारी मनमोहन तेरी छवि अति प्यारी बंसी बजैया रास रचैया पातारन हार मेरे तुम ही खिवैया तुमसे बड़ा कौन है मेरा कन्हैया श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा देवकी नंदन तुमको बंधन रख दे सबकी लाज सबके स्वामी अंतर्यामी पूरन की जय काज लीला परंपार तेरे तो माखन चोर कहावे भव सागर से सबकी नैया तू ही पार लगावे भक्तों का सहारा तू बांसुरी वाला मथुरा के बसैया तू नंद के लाला तेरी भक्ति में नाचे हम ताता थैया श्री कृष्ण गोविंद हरे मुरारे हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा एक भक्त जब भी तुझको पुकारे उसकी ओर तू दौड़ा चला रे एक भक्त जब भी तुझको पुकारे उसकी ओर तू दौड़ा चला रे मन की पीड़ा दूर भगाए अपनी वाणी से सबको लुभाए हे नाथ नारायण वासुदेवा
Shri Krishna Govind Hare Murare, He Nath Narayan Vasudeva, देवकी नंदन तुमको बंधन रखते सबकी लाज, सबके स्वामी अंतर्यामी पूरन की जयकार. Thank you so much.
Beautiful, Sunita ji, like you always do. You see a lot of hearts and accolades pouring your way. How easily you do that, like a flowing river. Sandhya, you wanted to add something? Loved it.
I just,
With
this
icing on the
line,
Mhm.
या भक्त जब दिल से बुलाए दौड़ा चले तू दौड़ा चला. I mean, when she just sang that line, I don't know, it was so beautiful. I mean, entire bhajan, but that line just hit like anything to me. I was like totally in the Roop Dhyan mode. Thank you so much for that.
Beautiful,
Wonderful,
Sunita ji,
beautiful.
always. So I'm sure your neighbors and whoever is at home will be thanking us, okay, whenever you take up the mic and sing that, because they will be benefiting from it as well. Very nice. Loved it. Perfect icing on the cake today. Anybody wants to say anything?
So many beautiful bhajans. Thank you all.
Yeah, today was a special treat. So many beautiful bhajan we saw, right? Sunita ji, Seema, and then Himani, and then we had, who else we had?
This only, yeah.
Okay. Wonderful.
And Shyamji seems like, yeah?
Yes, Shyamji, you have some closing comments?
A closing bhajan looks like, I don't know, let's see.
You want to
Radhe
sing
Radhe
first?
Shyamji.
क्लोजिंग कमेंट सचिन भाई. अब मुझे लग रहा है ऐसा कि आप जैसे ये ज्ञान सुबह हम सबको बांटते हैं, तो हमें ये जो हम भक्ति संध्या करते हैं, हमें इसके लिए वक्त कम पड़ता है सचिन भाई. तो मेरी बारी कभी आती ही नहीं है, तो मैं चाह रहा था कि हम वन डे डिवोट करें सिर्फ इस संध्या के ऊपर ही, संध्या नॉट संध्या बट भक्ति संध्या के ऊपर ही, ताकि हम सब अपना अपना टैलेंट दिखा सकें यहाँ पर एटलीस्ट, और हम सब इस कृष्ण कृष्ण वंदना में खो जाए, रम जाए, समा जाए.
इट्स
इस
अ गुड
बारे में आपका
आइडिया.
क्या विचार है?
तो हम ऐसा करते हैं कि जो हमारा सेकेंड ईयर एनिवर्सरी आएगा, which is not very far off, we can do a bhakti sandhya that day and prepare nice bhajans. We'll do a bhajan shloka. We'll pick up a few shlokas and a bhajan sandhya that day. What do you say? If that is the case,
I'm always on for it, because
okay.
I have
So
seen
then
this
start filling up the
platform
feedback
growing.
matter. We'll pick up maybe 3-minute bhajans, and we can possibly have 20-25 participants. Okay, so first come first serve basis. Start putting in. We'll do a special evening just on bhajan sandhya in that case. Okay, thank you, Shyam.
Perfect. और मैं जैसे देख पा रहा हूँ, हम लोग ने जब ये इवेंट स्टार्ट किया था प्लेटफॉर्म, तुम्हें आपको याद होगा, आप, मैं, सैम जी, मीनू जी, हम सब लोग ने साथ शुरू किया था, और आज हम लोग कहाँ पहुँच गए हैं. तो इट इज़ अनबिलीवेबल. और मैं हमेशा बोलता आया हूँ कि मैं इसमें आया था सिर्फ 3-4 महीनों के लिए, और जिस प्रकार से नितिन भाई ने मुझे बांधा है इस मैं तो खाऊंगा नहीं कभी खत्म हुए, बट as I always say, people come and go, souls come and go. So, but this platform always goes on. जब हम आज बात कर रहे थे कि about souls departing, I want again share if I have time कि जब मैं आया था तो I guess it was destined for me to join this platform, because the day I joined it, उसी में कुछ समय के बाद ही I lost my dad, I lost my mom, and I still remember the day that week only Swamiji had come on this platform, and somehow Nitin Bhai had insisted or requested Swamiji. And the day he came, I spoke to him. I couldn't speak. I was crying, but still he waited and he made me speak. And the way he explained, it was really, मतलब मैं उस event को झेल पाया था, और eventually my mom also left me, and that also day I guess Nitin Bhai spoke to me. So and then I realized how हम लोग कितने मतलब लाचार हैं इस जीवन में, and just the thought of that God is with us, it really helps a lot. And trust you me, this feeling, मैं फिर से बोलता हूँ कि मैं इस प्लेटफॉर्म इसीलिए आया था कि कृष्णा चाह रहे थे कि मैं आ जाऊँ, ताकि जो मेरे साथ ये घटनाएं घटने वाली हैं, मैं उनको अच्छे से सह पाऊँ, संभल पाऊँ. I will not say झेल पाऊँ, but संभल पाऊँ. And I really thank Krishna for this, that he is a perfect timer. He knows where we all are, where we stand. And I had my own plans, as I told you earlier also, for the last 20 years, but for the last 4 years, I've throughout my plans. And first of all, trust you me, the life is much smoother now, much easier now, much helpful now. That's all. Thank you. Radhe Radhe.
Good. Thank you, Shambhai, for knowing that. I know we have been together for the last 2 years and it will only get better from here on. आप आए थे 4 महीने के लिए, but ये चलेगा 5-10 साल चलेगा easily. बहुत, we have a long way to go.
When is the anniversary, by the way?
Anniversary, we can, जब आप बोलो, we can celebrate it. I mean, it's going to be on, I think around the New Year time, anytime between Christmas and we can do that, or maybe we can celebrate it on maybe 18th or somewhere around that mark. So we can plan for it, start filling the feedback tracker. I'll keep on compiling the names. You have about 25 to 30 entries easily we can take, okay, for that session. So first come, first serve basis, okay. And I'm going to sing as well and nobody can take that spot, okay, because I have that privilege. I'm just kidding. Okay, great.
Awesome.
So with that, we come to an end of another session. I think it was a long session today. Tomorrow we will continue on this discussion or we'll pick up depending upon what you have put in the feedback tracker. But I look forward to another engaging session tomorrow, and thank you again for your time and for the wonderful engagement like you all always do. So thank you again. Radhe Radhe from my side.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night and good day ahead. Radhe Radhe.
Radhe Radhe.